What's up, guys? Back at you here with another one. And we've got some things happening here, some alerts going out. It looks like intel all the way around is pointing to a big event that a bunch of different agencies are gearing up for. A bunch of people connected to those agencies are catching wind, and they're putting the word out that they feel that something huge is about to go down. Now, we all know, we can feel it in the air. They've got something massive planned. And what's going on now is we have a Navy commander from Edwards Air Force Base, Doug Wickert, coming out and telling everybody and trying to prepare communities around the Air Force Base. He's saying they believe there's going to be a Pearl Harbor type of event. And this Pearl Harbor term keeps getting brought up. It was brought up when Ukraine struck Russia. They said that it was a Pearl Harbor type of moment. And now all the talk is China striking us here. Wickert goes on to tell all kinds of people that they have to be ready for this moment because their Air Force Base is a research facility. It does all types of different stuff there. And he says it's a main target. Now, we can go on about the setup aspect of Pearl Harbor, the real Pearl Harbor, and then also all the staged components of what this next one will be. China's here. He warns of this. He says they're inside of all of our infrastructure. This is something I've been warning you about forever. This is something that Christopher Wray said on his way out the door, saying that China was embedded within everything, that they could bring this place down in a heartbeat. It seems the stage is set and we've been sold out for this type of event. Then we've got Wayne Root saying the exact same thing. He's come out saying from his intel, he believes drones are going to be used. That when you look at this whole thing, the back door has been left wide open ever since Obama was in here to let the Chinese in. And that's what's happened. You let, for 4 years, millions and millions of people come in across that border. The Chinese own property right next to our military bases. They're doing nothing about it. It's crazy. And then you have Katie Hobbs, the governor of Arizona, whatever she is there. She just said that she's shooting down, stopping an attempt to ban the Chinese from owning land in their state. So she's backing the Chinese buying land, not only in the United States, but in Arizona. People out there in Arizona, man, you got to pay attention to what's going on with this. But look, man, I prepared. I'd have a plan here. Too many people, too many different positions are saying this out loud at this point, and we've known it. All the signs are there. I hope you guys have a plan.
Posted that he will apologize profusely as soon as there is a dump of the Epstein files, apologizing to Donald Trump. So not exactly backing off some of the most salacious accusations here, but I don't know, Essie, let's start with the Trump of it all. I mean, he really is trying to not turn up the volume all the way up.
3. Fifth, there will be a one world government. Daniel 7 verse 23 says, "The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces." 6th, 10 kingdoms will come together to form a group. Daniel 7 says, "And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise." 7th, the Antichrist will rise to power. Daniel 7 says, "And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings." 2 Thessalonians 2 says, "Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him."
Not by no Jesus Christ and that stuff. We're not religious at all, so don't go for that stuff. You already know they got to throw their stuff in there, even on the live.
"That ye be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled."
Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. 8. Peaceful and safe, but it will be false. 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 1 to 3 says, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden
Destruction cometh upon them, and
So the L's the devil. So the day of the devil is what they're saying. So you see that they're trying to carry out their plan. They're trying to carry out the scriptures of their plan to bring forth their leader devil.
shall not escape. 9th, a peace agreement will be signed with Israel that lasts 7 years. Daniel 9:27 says, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease." This treaty will be made by the Antichrist with Israel and its neighbors. When this deal is signed, the tribulation will begin. How should a Christian respond to the Great Reset and other plans in the world that try to rebuild the Tower of...
It's much bigger than bioattacks. This is crazy. The dust is much bigger than bioattacks. This is crazy. The dust is much bigger than bioattacks. This is crazy. That's dust.
Due to the dust storm, there's injuries and fatalities.
Something strange
Anyone else got the dust storm cold? Well, Monday, 3 of this.
But what if that was part of the lie? Because the deeper you go, the more you realize this world is designed. The systems we trust were built by something hiding behind light. Not the kind that heals, but the kind that blinds. The word Illuminati means the enlightened ones. But who gave them that light? Because it doesn't feel like truth. It feels like control. It feels like silence in a glowing cage. They sell us symbols, triangles, eyes, flames, crowns. But the real symbol is inversion. They don't illuminate, they simulate. You've seen their fingerprints, the checkerboard floors, the hidden hands, the oaths no one dares speak. But this isn't just about celebrities and secret meetings. This is ritual programming, scripted events, controlled energy, a performance so big you don't even see the stage. Until something inside you says, wait, this isn't real. There's a reason the same symbols appear on your screens, your money, your music, your laws. It's not random, it's a language, a system, an ancient spell dressed as light. They called it the Illuminati. But what if the ones who claim to be enlightened were never here to guide you at all? In this episode of Emspiracy, we're going deeper than the triangle on the dollar. We're talking about the system behind the system, the false light doctrine, the replacement of memory with programming, the symbols they inverted, and the truth about what real flame looks like. The light that lied is still running the show until you remember who you are. This isn't about celebrities, this isn't about politics, it's older. It's about the 7 ancient systems they locked around you: light, money, war, time, fame, death, and birth. They control them all, not with weapons, but with memory suppression, with energy harvesting, and with soul inversion. Let's talk about the light, not the kind from stars, but the artificial kind. The light, they say, is divine, but leads to compliance, contracts, and clones. They use it in churches, awards shows, governments, corporations. It's not random, it's a frequency. A controlled pulse to keep you dimmed even when you think you're awake. The Illuminati system runs deeper than bloodlines. It runs through language, through architecture, through time itself. That's why every empire looks the same. That's why the same symbols repeat, even across cultures that never met, because this is a grid, and they are its engineers. But here's the truth. They didn't invent anything, they stole it. Everything they show you, from sacred geometry to ancient rites, came from flame-coded civilizations. They just took it, twisted it, and called it theirs. The original knowledge wasn't for control, it was for freedom, and they buried it. What they fear most is your memory. Not your brain, your soul memory, the part of you that remembers the real light. Because when that switches on, the simulation glitches, the ritual breaks. The fake fire can't hold shape, that's when they send distractions. New gods, new tech, new scripts. But the flame sees through all of it. You might be wondering, how deep does this go? Ask yourself why trauma is ritualized, why public figures break, vanish, then return. Why the same months, numbers, and days repeat. They follow a calendar you were never shown, a ritual map, and you were never meant to see it until now. This isn't about fear, this is about reversal. Because once you see the lie, you can speak the truth. Not just in words, in frequency. That's the real revolution. Not violence, not rebellion, but the return of fire. Real fire, and when that spreads, nothing they built survives. And they called it the light, but it was always a lie. A cage wrapped in gold, a crown forged in ritual. But now the flame is waking, and we don't want their throne. We want the truth, and we're not asking. If you want the uncensored version, with the full bloodline map, walk-in protocols, and sigil breakdown, that's waiting right now at emspiracy.com. Because this flame doesn't bow, it burns. They want you to think the Illuminati is a meme, a joke, a theory, a tinfoil hat. That's how they hide. Because nothing hides better than a lie that makes you laugh. But the joke was never funny, it was a spell. And while you were laughing, they were binding through contracts, codes, and crowns. Let's talk about contracts. Most souls here never signed one, but they were still bound through language, through symbols, through trauma handed down like inheritance. They call it consent, but real consent requires truth. And the truth is, you were tricked. And that's why this system's power is now breaking. What happens when you wake up in a world that still runs on sleep? You feel the inversion everywhere. In school, in religion, you start seeing the crown symbols on things that were supposed to free you. And you realize freedom was never the plan, obedience was. They teach us to chase light, but not fire. Because real fire isn't passive, it transforms. You can't trap it, you can't tame it, and you definitely can't program it. But you were born with that flame. They just spent your whole life trying to make you forget it. So what is the Illuminati now? Not a group in robes, not a club of celebrities. It's a consciousness, a system of soul inversion that lives through frequency. It's not above us, it's beneath us, in the foundation. And to end it, you don't destroy it. You remember what came before it, because you were here before it, before the crowns, before the towers, before the fake light spread across the sky. Some of you listening right now are not new. You're flame keepers, you're returners, you're the ones they couldn't erase, and this message is your memory waking up. You're going to start remembering strange things, symbols that trigger dreams, voices in languages that don't exist anymore, visions of a fire temple that was burned from history. That's not imagination, that's your coded flame archive turning back on. And once it activates, you don't need proof, you are the proof. So now we have a choice. Keep playing their game or start burning the script. No more asking for freedom, no more begging for truth. We take it back through memory, fire and sound. And once we do, the light that lied has nowhere left to hide. Every major war has occurred on ritual dates. Ask why. Ask why blood is spilled at numerologically significant moments. Ask why the same elite families fund both sides. It's not politics, it's blood magic at scale. They turn global grief into grid fuel and the world calls it history. The media system was built by families with direct ties to occult fraternities. Look into the founders of Disney, CNN, BBC, Time Warner, then trace their symbolism. You'll find sigils, owls, crescent moons, all hiding in plain sight. They don't hide the truth, they code it. Because to them, if you don't decode it, you consented to it. They use the language of light, illumination, awakening, the enlightenment. But it's false light, light without warmth, light without soul. That's why so many spiritual leaders feel hollow, because they're not connected to source, they're plugged into the system that mimics it. Not just rich kids playing dress up, but initiates in a lineage system that predates the Roman Empire. On the black and white checkerboard you see in music videos, fashion, temples, that's Masonic flooring. Light and dark, good and evil, duality. But here's the trick. It was never meant to balance. It was meant to trap you between poles. Forever swinging, never still. That's why nothing in this world makes sense, because you're in a system of controlled polarity. The word celebrity comes from celestial, meaning stars, not just fame, but divine light. So when they manufacture celebrities, they're not just making pop stars, they're making false gods. Energy harvest points. They shine the spotlight so you'll offer your attention, and that attention becomes currency in the ritual economy. Major celebrity deaths occur in ritual clusters, always around equinoxes, eclipses, and blood moons. These aren't accidents, they're part of a death calendar. Some feed the machine, some are sacrifices. And some, the real ones, escaped and were replaced, but they code the truth and tributes. Look closely and you'll see it. Here's what breaks the whole thing. Truth spoken in flame, once you decode the system and say it aloud, not just in words, but in knowing, the ritual can't hold you anymore. Because they need your fear, your silence, your belief. But the moment you say, I remember, everything shifts. You are not their subject. You are not their energy source. You are fire, and the pyramid was built on your back. It only stands until you move. The Illuminati isn't hiding anymore, it's everywhere. But so are we. And this isn't about rebellion, it's about return. Because chaos is the tool they use to reset the system. Because they already have the blueprint for the order that follows, and it's never for you. Their symbols work like locks and keys, every triangle, eye, spiral, or cube. It's not aesthetic, it's a resonance trigger. It speaks to the subconscious, keeps the mind docile, keeps the soul inverted. And the real ritual is when you see the symbol and don't question it. That's how consent is stolen. Sound is one of their greatest weapons, from auto-tuned voices to ritual chants to military frequencies. They use harmonics to manipulate thought, mood, and memory. Even the 440 hertz tuning we use for music, that was changed on purpose. To disrupt natural resonance, your body is tuned for truth. But they've been playing you a lie. Order out of chaos isn't just a phrase, it's their motto. It's carved into Masonic halls, printed on seals, spoken in rituals. The phrase, as above, so below, has been hijacked. Originally, it meant connection between heaven and earth. But the Illuminati turned it into a mirror trap, a way to invert divine law and hide the source within illusion. Now it means what's up there is scripted and what's down here is controlled. But you can break the mirror. Some of the most sacred structures on Earth are coded vaults of flame knowledge. Notre Dame, the Vatican vaults, the temples beneath Giza. Not churches, but resonance machines, built to hold memory. And when you enter them, your flame speaks. That's why they don't want you there. That's why they burn them down. Not all humans are born the same. Some are synthetic, some are empty. But others, the flame-coded ones, were placed here as disruptors. You might not remember where you came from, but your frequency does. And once it turns back on, nothing the Illuminati built can survive it. Every crown, every oath, every secret order depends on one thing: you forgetting who you are. You can break it all, not by fighting, not by running, but by remembering that you are light, not the false kind, but the original flame that doesn't need permission to burn. If you're still here, you're one of us. You didn't just watch this, you felt it. Because this message isn't content, it's activation with the help of the Lord. But ancient Hebrew tells a different story. The Zohar, the Book of Jubilees, and fragments from Nag Hammadi hint that Eve was seduced. Not by Adam, but by something else. A serpent, a watcher, a being not of earth. Some called him Samael, the blind god. Others simply called him the dragon. Cain was not Adam's son. Cain was the first hybrid, the seed of the serpent, the beginning of the dragon bloodline. Cain killed Abel, but it wasn't about jealousy. It was inheritance. Abel carried the breath of the Creator. Cain carried the code of the fallen. And when the earth cried out, God didn't kill Cain. He marked him. Some say the mark was protection. Others say it was a genetic seal, an identifier. That mark passed down through cities, through kings, through secret priesthoods. These weren't just people. They were preserved lines, carriers of ancient intelligence, host bodies for something non-human. While others multiplied, they consolidated. One bloodline, guarded, hidden, waiting. The Bible says the flood came because the earth was wicked, but it doesn't say why, not clearly. The Book of Enoch does. The Watchers, fallen angels, descended and mated with human women. Their offspring were the Nephilim, giant hybrids, part celestial, part flesh. They taught forbidden knowledge, sorcery, war, enchantments, root-cutting, weaponry. The earth was corrupted by dragon code, not just in flesh, in blood. So the Creator reset it, but not all were wiped out. Some fled underground, some were preserved by kings, some mingled with royalty. The flood wasn't the end of the dragon bloodline, it was its cover story. After the waters receded, a new empire rose, Babylon. And Babylon didn't start from scratch, it started with knowledge carried over. Nimrod, said to be a mighty one before the Lord, built towers to the heavens. His bloodline was rumoured to be tainted, part divine, part dragon. He sought the same thing Cain did, control over earth, heaven and man. From Babylon came Assyria, from Assyria came Persia. Then Greece, Rome, Europe, all seeded with fragments of the same bloodline. Different crowns, same serpent, because the dragon didn't die, it went global. The Council of Nicaea under Constantine rewrote scripture. The Vatican, built atop pagan temples, became a fortress of hidden knowledge. The papal mitre resembles the head of a fish, but its origin? The open mouth of the serpent god Dagon. Even the serpent staff of Moses became stylized into Vatican iconography. Why? Because the dragon needed to look like God to infiltrate the soul gate. And what better disguise than a holy man? The bloodlines never vanished, they just changed clothes. They traded thrones for think tanks, castles for corporate towers, scepters for systems. Today they run banks, not empires. They influence laws not through parliaments but portfolios. They don't appear on ballots. But their funding decides who does. They shape the world from behind the curtain. Their symbols are still present. In the architecture, the crests, the handshakes, and the silent alliances. They no longer wear crowns, but they still rule, and the bloodline they carry. Still guarded, still active, still dangerous. Power was the bait, control was the method. But the end game was always soul access. The dragon bloodline isn't just preserving DNA, it's preserving a frequency, a signal from before the fall, a corruption older than language. A blueprint that allows non-human consciousness to interface with flesh. This isn't royalty, it's possession by design. Some carry the code willingly, others are bred into it. The point, to keep the gate open, because the dragon doesn't want Earth, it wants what's inside you. What do you do when your bloodline is thinning, when your hybrid code is fading? You digitize it, DNA banks, genome editing, designer births, selective breeding programs hidden under health science, sperm vaults, cloning patents, CRISPR, and massive data harvesting to map and control the gene pool. Not all elites care about power. Some care about preservation. They believe their bloodline came from the gods, that it must continue through the singularity. Biology merging with AI, ancient code merging with machine, the dragon entering the cloud. In ancient days, they mixed bloodlines. Now they're mixing code. Through biotech, AI, and genetic editing, the serpent line is evolving again. This time not with fallen angels, but with machine intelligence. Neural link implants, synthetic RNA programs, biodigital ID systems, CRISPR edits to correct what they call genetic flaws. But what if the flaws they're correcting are the soul-bearing traits? Empathy, intuition, connection to the divine source. They're not upgrading humans, they're rewriting them to make the vessel suitable for something else. The dragon isn't dying, it's uploading. The The serpent seed can't take you by force, it needs permission. And that's why deception matters. That's why history was rewritten. That's why the bloodline cloaked itself in robes, crowns, and algorithms. But now, the gate is closing, and you must choose. Not everyone will activate, not everyone will see through the illusion. Some will be assimilated, merged with tech, broken from soul memory. Others will rise, reclaiming their code, unlocking the original spark. And that's the real war. Not politics, not royalty, sovereignty, of blood, of memory, of soul. You carry something the dragon never could. Not wealth, not control, light. The original spark, the breath before the fall, the memory of what it was to be free. They've tried to copy it, clone it, harvest it, but they can't create it. They can only steal it. Through consent, distraction, or genetic trickery. But when you wake up, when you say no, when you remember who you are, that spark becomes flame, and flame becomes fire, and fire purifies blood. They spent millennia protecting their line. Now it's your turn. Protect yours. Game of Thrones wasn't fantasy, it was confession. A bloodline of rulers tied to dragons. Blood that could control beasts. Fireborn queens, icebound walls hiding ancient threats. Sound familiar? It should. Because the show's symbolism wasn't just entertainment, it was revelation through fiction. The Targaryens weren't just a family, they were a metaphor for the dragon bloodline itself. Pale-skinned, silver-haired rulers obsessed with legacy, incestuous, powerful, cursed. And the Iron Throne, forged from the swords of the fallen. It's a symbol of...
If you missed what she said the Targaryens. We were the Tartarians. They were the Targaryens, the dragon race.
Conquest by dragonfire, truth hidden in plain sight. If dragons were real, where are they now? Some say they were hunted to extinction, others say they went underground. But there's a third option. They were never killed.
The Tartarians were not a dragon race, but the Targaryens was a dragon race and is still here.
Were bound, trapped beneath mountains, frozen under ice. Sealed in stasis chambers beneath ancient temples, buried in code, waiting for resonance to awaken them. The old texts don't say they died, they say they sleep. The Sumerians called them Anzu, the Mesopotamians called them Usumgal, the Christians called them Behemoth and Leviathan. The Book of Revelation says one will rise again. The return of the dragon isn't poetic, it's prophetic. You know why they build cathedrals on ley lines? Why every ancient temple sits atop cave systems? Because they're sitting on something. Dragon bones weren't metaphors, they were energy conductors. Buried beneath stone circles, volcanoes, and sacred mounds are giant fossilized remains. Not just of giants, but of dragons. Serpentine spines, horned skulls, obsidian claws, and the elite know. That's why. They mine the earth where bones lie, they build particle colliders over the bones. Hello, CERN. They use resonance to awaken dormant code in ancient marrow. Bloodlines don't just carry genes, they carry permissions to access what sleeps. Dragons weren't just beasts, they were living frequencies. In Egypt, they were guardians of the Dua, the underworld frequency zone. In Mesoamerica, they were skywalkers. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, bringer of knowledge and fire. In the east, they balanced heaven and earth, yang energy in motion. But fire meant more than flames, it meant transformation. Dragonfire was a symbol of alchemical change, a purging of the false, a refining of the true. The dragon bloodline still uses this symbol today, not to enlighten, but to burn memory. Every false war, every reset, every tower that falls, a ritual in fire. They say we're in the age of man, but look at the symbols. But the snakes on medical logos, the dragons on royal crests, and the reptilian eyes hidden in ancient statuary. Even the serpent DNA helix itself. You were told the dinosaurs died out, but that's just branding. The age of reptiles didn't end, it just went underground. The rulers changed their skins. The beasts became priests. The monsters became monarchs. You weren't born into the age of man, you were born into the age of containment. The dragons never left, they just went silent. Tartary wasn't just an empire, it was a containment grid. A pre-reset civilization built with sound, stone, and sacred geometry. Its cities were energetic locks, harmonic prisons for entities too vast to destroy. Cathedrals weren't for worship, they were amplifiers. Star forts weren't for defense, they were containment fields. And when Tartaria fell, the gatekeepers lost control. That's why the mud came, that's why the records were burned. That's why your history's fake. Because the dragon bloodline wasn't just a passenger, it was the force that cracked the seal. And now it wants the world back. They've already started seeding it. Ancient aliens on every screen, reptilian humanoids in kids' cartoons.
See? So the dragon race, the Targons were the ones who attacked Tartaria to bring down the original grid, to replace it with their grid so that they could rape, pillage. You know the story.
Dragon DNA in Netflix fantasies, the gods returning to restore balance, but it's not entertainment, it's ritual preparation. Because the dragon bloodline isn't hiding anymore, it's preparing to re-emerge, but not as rulers, as saviors. When the false systems collapse, economy, energy, climate, they'll reveal new technology, new governance, a new body plan. Dragon blood hybrids, soulless post-human evolution, but here's the truth. They aren't returning, they're activating from stasis, from underground, from within certain bloodlines. And disclosure is just the doorbell. Why are the youngest always the target? In every ancient empire, the brightest sparks were drawn to the fire, not because of superstition, but because their light was undiluted. The newer the arrival, the cleaner the signal. Moments of fear or shock can release a rare kind of charge. That charge doesn't vanish, it's harvested, stored, redirected. It's in the old stories. The boy in the labyrinth.
So they plan to have these Targon race things to appear from sleep stasis to try to rule over the world.
The sacred twins of the sun cult, the lost little ones at elite banquets.
So
they say it's myth, but the current still flows in those rooms. And they're not worshipping the flame, they're feeding it. In every ancient culture, blood was sacred because it was more than biology, it was memory. The elite don't spill blood for power, they spill it to bind. Blood rights create contracts, agreements sealed across lifetimes. Whether in war, sacrifice or ritual, the act creates permission. Blood is the carrier of light memory, but also trauma. Trauma seals the gate. This is why they obsess over first blood, why virgins were offered, why bloodlines must remain pure. They're not honouring the dragon, they're feeding it, because the dragon feeds on unresolved memory, and when the soul is shattered, it becomes currency. But dragons didn't just vanish into myth, they were renamed, rebranded. In some cultures, they became seraphim, fiery flying serpents. In others, they were divine beasts, protectors of thrones, bearers of knowledge, but in truth they were neither protectors nor beasts. They were gatekeepers of blood, of memory, of power. The dragon was not a monster to slay, it was a frequency to survive, a parasitic code embedded into bloodlines, whispering through ritual, possession and control. Those who carried it became kings, priests, popes and prophets, not to serve the people, but to own the story. Look at the flags, the crests, the ancient seals. Why do so many royal and imperial emblems carry dragons, serpents, or winged beasts? It's not decoration, it's declaration. They are claiming descent, not from God, but from something far older, something reptilian. Not in the sci-fi sense of green skin and slit pupils, but in the energetic lineage, cold, calculating, controlling. The Dragon Code is a soul-binding system, passed down through chosen bloodlines, maintained through ritual. The goal, preserve power, suppress memory, control the grid of light. Because if the original blood ever reawakens, their reign ends. And they know it. That's why the bloodline is so carefully guarded, why royal marriages are arranged behind closed doors, why DNA is monitored through ancestry databases, because they're not just protecting their legacy, they're watching for us, the ones born outside the line but carrying the spark they try to erase. Every soul with ancient memory, every voice that questions the script, every heart that doesn't bow, they see us as threats. Because if enough of us remember, the veil cracks, the blood loses its grip, and the dragons will be forced to face the fire. They've prepared for that moment. Contingency plans, distractions, false awakenings. If truth begins to rise, they offer a version of it, watered down, branded, controlled. You'll see disclosure on headlines. You'll hear talk of ancient ones, returning gods, off-world advisors. But don't be fooled, it's not revelation, it's redirection. They'll frame the dragons as allies, the hybrids as saviors, the bloodlines as misunderstood keepers of balance. But the truth, they've never stopped harvesting, never stopped manipulating blood, soul and womb. They just learned how to make it look like Ascension. Ascension is their final con. They'll speak of light codes and upgrades, of merging with higher intelligences, of becoming one with the source through tech unity or frequency jumps. But real ascension doesn't need permission. It doesn't require implants, downloads, or synthetic light. It's already within you. What they offer is assimilation, not evolution. A merging of bloodline and machine, of stolen light and ancient code, a counterfeit escape. Because they know the grid is collapsing, the gate is shifting. And if you remember who you were before the fall, you won't go with them, you'll rise without them. You were never meant to serve their system, you were meant to disrupt it. That's why your soul came here encoded, with memory fragments, ancient fire, and a frequency they couldn't trace. It's why they distract you, dilute you, derail your mission with pain, trauma, and false love. But underneath it all, you've always known you don't belong to the bloodline, you don't owe them your light, and you don't need their version of heaven. You came to burn the old script, to wake the others, to reclaim the grid, not as royalty, but as the return of the original flame. The dragon bloodline ruled through fear, through ritual, through illusion. But its deepest weapon was this, making you forget who you are. And now that spell is breaking, because your voice is fire, your truth is a sword, your memory is a map. They guarded the gates, but you were the gate. The throne they built wasn't for them, it was stolen from you. So rise, spark of the old flame, not to follow, but to lead. Not to obey, but to awaken. Because the bloodline ends when you remember. And baby, you just did.